June 18, 1815, Waterloo, Belgium. The day that would decide the fate of Europe. But what if Napoleon Bonaparte had an advantage that Wellington could never imagine? What if history's greatest military genius had 200-year future technology in his hands? Could a single modern military drone rewrite history? Or do even gods of war have limitations? My last brain cell is about to find out. Establishing the scenario. First, let's understand what was at stake. Waterloo wasn't just a battle. It was the end of 20 years of Napoleonic dominance in Europe. On the French side, 72,000 men, loyal veterans, led by history's greatest military strategist. On the coalition side, 67,000 British under Wellington, plus 45,000 Prussians under Blücher arriving as reinforcement. The weapons of the era? Muskets that fired 3 shots per minute with 100-meter range. Cannons that hit 1 kilometers if lucky. Cavalry that depended on pure courage and cold steel. Now imagine introducing an American MQ-9 Reaper from 2024 into this world. The impossible technology. The MQ-9 Reaper is a 21st century war machine, weighs 2,200 kilos, flies at 400 km/h, has 14-hour endurance. It's equipped with 4 Hellfire missiles, each with destructive power equivalent to 50 Napoleonic cannons firing simultaneously. Its surveillance system can detect an individual soldier at 50-kilometer distance. Thermal cameras see through smoke, fog, darkness. 30x zoom reveals details impossible for human eyes. In 1815, this isn't technology, it's pure magic. But there was a crucial detail. For some inexplicable cosmic reason, only Napoleon knew how to operate it. As if his military genius had fused with impossible technological knowledge. The nightmare awakens. 5:30 a.m. Field soaked by the previous night's rain. Napoleon walks among his troops when he hears a strange buzzing cutting through the air. Bouzouzouz. French soldiers point to the sky. At 200 meters height, something impossible hovers suspended. 4 rotors spin silently. No ropes, no balloons, no explanation. Qu'est-ce que c'est, mon empereur? Asks Marshal Ney. Napoleon looks at the control screen that had mysteriously appeared in his tent. His fingers know the commands as if he'd used this his entire life. A gift from the gods of war, he responds, with the first genuine smile since his return from exile. Absolute intelligence. While Wellington carefully positions his troops on the hills of Mont Saint-Jean, Napoleon already possesses perfect intelligence on every enemy movement. The drone silently overflies British lines. On the screen, Napoleon sees exactly 67,000 British soldiers mapped in real time, 156 cannons positioned with precise coordinates, cavalry movements tracked meter by meter, communications between officers intercepted via sound amplification. Weak points in formations identified instantly. Mes généraux, Napoleon announces to his bewildered commanders, today we don't fight a battle, today we conduct an execution. His generals look confused at that bright screen showing impossible details about the enemy. Sire, asks Marshal Soult hesitantly, how do you know there are exactly 2,847 soldiers on the right front line? Because I see them, Napoleon responds simply. All of them. Terror from the heavens. 11:30 a.m. The battle begins traditionally with French artillery bombardment. But then, something happens that no soldier on the field would ever forget. Whoosh! A line of fire crosses the sky at 400 km/h, 3 times faster than any known projectile. Boom! The explosion instantly vaporizes an entire battery of British cannons. 12 soldiers simply disappear. The detonation force opens a 5-meter crater. Soldiers from both sides stop fighting and stare upward. They search for French cannons that could have fired that. They find nothing. Wellington, observing through his telescope, feels something he never experienced in 40 years of war. Primitive fear. Where did that shot come from? He shouts to his officers. No one has an answer, because the answer is 200 meters above their heads, invisible and silent. Psychological collapse. Second Hellfire missile. This time it targets a British cavalry formation trying to flank the French. The horsemen see something impossible. Death descending from clear sky. No sound, no warning. Boom! 20 horses and riders simply evaporate. Surviving animals rear in absolute terror. Soldiers scream. Some drop their weapons and flee. Third missile. The target is the center of British infantry lines, the famous defensive square that had resisted Napoleon for decades. The formation, invincible for 200 years of warfare, dissolves in complete panic. Soldiers run in all directions, some pointing muskets at the sky and firing uselessly. "It's the devil himself," screams an English sergeant. "Napoleon made a pact with Satan." British military discipline forged in decades of campaign crumbles in minutes. The emperor attacks. With 3 missiles used and perfect intelligence, Napoleon launches his final offensive. "Soldiers of France," he shouts from atop his horse, "the gods of war fight with us. Advance and conquer immortality." 72,000 Frenchmen advance like a human avalanche. Morale is sky high. They believe they're witnessing divine miracles. Marshal Ney leads cavalry through disorganized British lines. French infantry marches in perfect order, knowing exactly where the enemy is vulnerable. Wellington desperately tries to regroup his forces, but how do you fight an enemy who always knows where you are? Who attacks with surgical precision? Who seems to have divine eyes? Victory, and then reality. For 4 glorious hours, Napoleon dominates completely. The drone provides perfect intelligence, the French advance unstoppably, the British retreat in disorder. But then, problems begin to emerge. Critical battery. The screen shows 15% energy remaining. After intensive flight, the drone gradually loses altitude. Last missile. Only 1 Hellfire remains, but Wellington still commands 35,000 soldiers in organized retreat. Mental exhaustion. Operating 2024 technology with an 1815 mind takes its toll. Napoleon feels piercing headaches, blurred vision. And then, the worst possible. On the eastern horizon, a dust cloud reveals 45,000 Prussians under Blücher marching toward the battlefield. The drone detects the approach, but Napoleon realizes a bitter truth. A drone cannot be in 2 places simultaneously. Fatal dilemma. Napoleon faces the most complex military choice in history. Use the last missile against Wellington, finishing the destruction of the British, or conserve it for psychological impact against the fresh Prussians. Napoleonic military genius conflicts with technological limitations. For the first time, even his strategic mind encounters a situation without perfect solution. He decides, Wellington first. The last Hellfire destroys the British command center. Wellington survives by meters, but his communications are in total chaos. However, while the drone monitors British retreat, 45,000 Prussians march freely toward the completely unprotected French rear. The inevitable collapse, 15% battery, 10%, 5%, the screen flickers, controls don't respond adequately. The drone oscillates in the air like a leaf in the wind. Napoleon realizes he won a battle but is losing the war. The Prussians, rested and organized, attack his troops exhausted by intense fighting. Without missiles, without aerial surveillance, Napoleon returns to being just a 19th century general facing superior forces. The drone finally crashes in a distant field, breaking into pieces no 1815 blacksmith could comprehend. Marshal Ney dies leading the last cavalry charge. The Imperial Guard makes its final stand. Napoleon flees the field when he realizes that not even gods can defeat numbers and logistics. Final analysis. So, could a drone change Waterloo? Yes, but not completely. Devastating advantages. Perfect intelligence on 100,000 plus enemy soldiers. 4 missiles equal 200 Napoleonic cannons. Psychological impact that breaks enemy morale. Impossible to intercept with 1815 technology. Fatal limitations. Only 4 missiles to face entire coalitions. Limited battery in prolonged operations cannot divide attention between multiple armies. Complex operation causes severe mental exhaustion. Realistic result. Napoleon would crush Wellington alone, but still lose to Wellington plus Blücher combined. Technology changes individual battles, not entire campaigns. Conclusion. 1 drone in 1815. Napoleon dominates for hours but loses in the end. 2 drones. Europe speaks French today. 3 drones. Napoleon rules the world. But history teaches, even future technology has limitations. War is about resources, numbers, time, and luck. Military genius amplifies advantages, but doesn't create infinite miracles. My last official neuron was fried simulating this. Next video. What if Roman gladiators had machine guns? If I survive this analysis,